Jesse, I see you have been obsessively tweeting about, well, a few things really this week, but Jason Arday is one of them. You want to give us an update? This story has legs. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I at a time when I'm really under the gun in terms of book work.
I can always tell when your deadlines are coming up because that's when you tweet the most feverishly.
I'm not sure this is the most addicted and obsessed with the story I've been for a while. And part of that is because after Arday died, reality split into two realities. In one of these realities, the one we inhabit, it was a very sad end to the story. Nobody wanted him to die, but he was a con man. He was a fabulist. He made all this shit up.
And instead of doing something normal and understandable, like conning an elderly person out of a pension, Jason Arday did something truly abnormal, which is con Cambridge out of a job.
Well, I think Cambridge was a very willing mark there. But yeah, and look, not every factual detail of every allegation had been tidied up, in part because a lot of this stuff happened a long time ago. But the basics were just objective matters of truth, including the extent of the plagiarism in his PhD thesis and the fact that he appeared to have fabricated some of his interviews. Now, that was one reality, was that our reality, real reality, and the other reality two. He had been hounded to death despite having done little to nothing wrong. And reality two has been inhabited by a wide range of prominent people, including Jason Stanley, who I asked a polite question.
I miss him.
On Substack. He did flee the country because of the fascism. And yeah, reality two, it's just, I don't know. I've said before, it's not just that we're balkanized these days. We're sort of sub-balkanized, where like, everyone on the left of center has a lot of things in common, like broadly anti-Trump, broadly liberal or leftist. But if you go on Blue Sky here, or certain corners of Threads, there's just an entirely different reality where this was a lynching, as Ibram X. Kendi put it. And I think I've been really, I'm not good at stepping away from the internet and seeing people seeing people over and over and over just construct in real time this alternate reality. And then obviously what further threw fuel on the fire was, at this point I can't keep track of time or space. I think it was a day or two ago as we record this on Friday, but Nathan Kaufness was suspended
and he's the guy who posted the first Substack that started the Arday mania.
Yeah. Although even there, what a lot of people did is say he's like a race realist, a race IQ guy, therefore he's not to be trusted.
Right.
Which just ignores two key facts, one of which is you can literally just read his fucking post. Like it's just a matter of like comparing two documents that overlap a lot. That's like the meat of it.
The plagiarism.
Yeah, the plagiarism. And then the other thing is this would have, we've been over this, but this would have come out earlier. So there would have been another messenger if Jason Arday hadn't threatened people by calling the cops on them or sicking Carter Rock, this infamous British defamation firm, on Times Higher Ed. If Times Higher Ed had covered this late last year, as they had planned to, Nathan Kaufness would not have been involved. But the latest twist on his end is he's at, I keep forgetting if it's University of Ghent or Ghent University. Ghent, either way, this is a major European university where he has some sort of lecturer-ish position, and he has been suspended. I reached out to Ghent to ask why they were suspending him. They won't say. Basically, it has something to do with something he has said or done. He's gave some sort of spicy podcast interviews after Arday's resignation or around that time before his death, but nothing that I could possibly imagine rising to the level of suspending someone while you investigate them from a position you appointed them to. And sorry, go ahead.
I saw a clip of him in a podcast interview where he said that he wants to be head of eugenics at Harvard, which seemed like obviously a joke to me. I think it's obviously a joke, and I think it's a reference to Harvard, like a lot of progressive institutions, having its own history with eugenics. I just think it's bad. If that's what they're investigating him for, that is sort of ridiculous. Now, because this is 2026 and stories only get bigger and bigger and bigger, turns out the rector of Ghent University is a
a trans woman, B, a gynecologist, which
interesting,
not relevant, but just makes it spicier. C, she recently gave a speech that was found to include fake AI-generated quotes from figures such as Albert Einstein. So just to reset us, you have the trans gynecologist, female rector of Ghent University suspends the race realist for questionable reasons, and the race realist had helped to expose the fabulist who said he ran 600 miles in 6 days and had a severed pig head delivered to him. So that's where we're at in this story. Like 10 minutes before we logged on to record, I said on Twitter, the only way to get myself off of Twitter is it's obnoxious to publicly be like, I'm not going to be on Twitter until X date. That's the only thing that gives me enough self-control. So I had to do that because I can't tear myself away from that. I don't even know what's going to happen next. I also should point out that a huge amount of this Jason Arday was bullied to death energy from people who in some cases, I don't know, Katie. I don't like calling people crazy because I disagree with them, but like, I don't know. I saw a guy with 100,000 followers, some sort of Portuguese influencer or some shit, say after Kaufness got suspended, he says that, well, at least Kaufness gets an investigation. Jason Arday never even got that. Jason Arday, his university announced an investigation. He retired and then he killed himself. He was going to get an Yeah.
He also, I mean, that's the thing. He, as far as we know, he killed himself. Maybe it was a rash decision. It's an action that I don't think you can blame on other people.
No, I mean, we've talked about this. You need to be careful when you're talking about suicide. I think when someone's entire life and career, which were built in large part on lies in this case, falls apart, they are probably most vulnerable to suicide during those like horrible floor falling out of your life moments. I would not want to be Jason Arday. If I could bring Jason Arday back to life, I would obviously do that. It doesn't. The fact of his death does not change what happened. It also just feeds into this really toxic approach to suicide that you see most common, in trans activism that really creeps right up to the edge of valorizing it.
Yeah.
And this is complicated. People commit suicide for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to criticize monocausal accounts of suicide and then be like, well, because of this type of media coverage, more people kill themselves. It's probably more complicated than that. But like, a guy who was a con artist who did really bad things that hurt people killed himself and then is held up as a martyr with thousands of people saying his name. There's just something perverse about it. I'm not saying people who like know him aren't allowed to be sad he died. It's tragic, but this has been really dark just to watch this unfold.
Yeah, the thing that has annoyed me most about this is when generally reputable news outlets don't tell the entire story. And I heard the most egregious example of this on NPR and All Things Considered. So Juana Summers interviewed a scholar about this. His name is Sean Harper. He's at University of Southern California. And in this segment, here, I got the transcript, Jesse. Here is how Juana Summers introduces what happened. In 2023, Arday became the youngest Black professor at Cambridge University, assuming a job as professor of sociology of education, but he resigned earlier this month following allegations of plagiarism. Juana Summers made this about plagiarism. There was no mention of the rampant lying. And the story of a professor plagiarizing would not have reached the heights that it did if not for the very florid lies that he told. That's what made this a story.
That's what made it, for a little while, funny. I'm sorry. For a while, it was funny. The pig's head, the ultra marathoning. Like, I obviously feel a little bit weird that I joked about it before he died, but like, when people discover other people are crazy liars, it's funny. It is funny. I'm sorry. So this NPR segment didn't mention it. Just plagiarism allegations. They're also not even allegations because the PhD thesis is still up. You can literally, I don't even know what to say. Yeah.
So they made it about plagiarism and about racism. To their credit, the next morning, so I was fucking mad about this. The next morning on NPR.
Did you tell the journalist to kill herself because you were so mad?
Morning Edition with Michelle Martin, she did a much more comprehensive story on this, and she had Tyler Austin Harper, both guys in this case, last name Harper. He was on the show, and he actually told the real story. He talked about how Arday said that he was mute. He talked about the crazy saying that he ran 600 miles in 6 days. Like Tyler Austin Harper did a much more complete and thorough analysis of this. So same media outlet, different show, same media outlet, just completely different coverage.
Does it? I just realized, does it Tyler Austin Harper sound like a Texas hill country mom calling her boys in for dinner? Tyler Austin Harper, get in here.
I was thinking one 15-year-old girl who's maybe on the cheer squad. That could also, Tyler Austin Harper could also,
who has all three of those names.
Yeah.
The only, I mean, I could clearly talk about this forever. Also, just seeing all the Be Kind crew circulating the most insane stuff about The Guardian. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing his first name right, but Lanre Bakare wrote the best piece on this for The Guardian. What I believe happened is Arday had approached The Guardian, I think because he wanted to lie to them about things like the severed pig's head and a man stalking him at Cambridge with a knife. And
for anybody who missed our Primo episode, the severed pig's head, he said that someone sent a severed pig's head to his parents' address.
Yeah.
A racist, presumably.
And that a guy showed up twice at Cambridge, one time with a knife, but this guy was invisible the closer. I mean, it's just like you said, florid, crazy lying. And all the Be Kind people, including like a bunch of really performative white people who talk about listening to black people and decentering whiteness, blah, 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 jerk off motion. They're like really piling on a black journalist. Now, I'm not the one playing the race card. Like, I think it was good journalism, whatever his color. He happened to be black, and but you're using your anti-racist sentiments to go after a black journalist who did nothing wrong. The craziest thing by far was this supposed scoop that The Guardian had been told Jason Arday was in a fragile state, and they went ahead and ran the story anyway. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously, are you fucking kidding me?
That's not a veto.
4 words. Are you fucking kidding me? You want journalists, hey, I'm about to publish this story. You look bad in it. Do you want to respond? The subject says, I'm in a fragile place right now. Please don't. You say, the journalist says, oh, okay, my bad. I didn't know you were in a fragile place. Are you out of your fucking mind? Seeing actual grown-ass adults pretend that was a gotcha. The Guardian knew he was in a fragile place, but they published, like, sorry. I don't know why this like activates me so much. I think it's because I love journalism and I have a lot of respect for actual journalists, and we do sort of get shit on by everyone on all fucking sides because no one actually likes journalists unless we're jerking them off or jerking off their own opinions. But like, go fuck yourself. If you're on social media, you're mad at The Guardian because they published a negative story about someone because the subject didn't want them to. I mean, you're insane, man. You just say you hate journalism. Say you want to live in a fucking dictatorship, which some of these people do because they're explicitly calling for some sort of crackdown on journalism in the UK. It's been. People can probably understand from my tone why I had to lock myself out of Twitter. And that's it.
Someone on Twitter, I've been breaking my Twitter fast lately, and I did tweet a little bit about that NPR piece that annoyed me. And someone in the replies, apologies, I don't remember who, compared Arday to Rachel Dolezal. And I think that's a really apt comparison. I don't think if Rachel Dolezal had killed herself, people would have been talking about too much media coverage of that story.
The attempts to, because a lot of the people mad at journalists and turning Arday into this like world historic martyr, they're hardcore identitarians who really interpret everything through like the lens of race. And so they keep trying to make these comparisons to other cases, saying things like, well, if a white scholar did this, he would have gotten away with it, which just isn't true. There are some slightly more complicated or shades of gray cases of plagiarism. Claudine Gay is a good example. She had to step down as president of Harvard, but she's still a professor at Harvard. She's black. She committed plagiarism, and like the punishment was somewhere in between. The fact of the matter is there are not a lot of direct comparisons to this where someone made up this much stuff and committed this much plagiarism. The closest examples maybe from journalism are like Jason Blair or Stephen Glass types. And they were thoroughly their reputations ransacked and their careers ruined unless I'm missing something. And that was before the social media age, we can only imagine what that would have been like. Michael Moynihan said he was talking in the fifth column that he had helped to expose Jonah Lehrer, and he said he was at one point worried Jonah Lehrer would kill himself. Yeah. It's horrible, again, to have the floor fall out from under you like that, but that doesn't mean fabulism is excusable. It's not.
And you could say that about literally anybody who has a story coming out about them that portrays them in a negative light.
Yeah, it's just that the idea of mental health problems or suicidality being used as a veto power, like, are you fucking kidding me? That's all I can say. Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me? We should move on.
Okay, last thing. I just saw this headline. Trump official intervenes in suspension of Arday critic Nathan Koffness. This is the ambassador to Belgium. Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, first of all, this is the lowest effort way imaginable to get kudos among like Trump and his toadies. But like the ambassador to Belgium, of all, like, you're not going to be doing it. Like, this is such a plum. You just sit in Brussels and just like, and now you have to issue a statement about the most in the weeds fucking thing ever. It's kind of funny.
All right, Jesse.
And you know what? Mm-hmm. That ambassador,
Jason Arday,
transgynecologist. No.
All right, Arday. Jesse, let's move on. We have...
Yeah, you're excited about this.
I'm excited. I'm nervous. This is a story that I've been working on now, like full over like 12 hours a day for the past probably month. This is a big story for me for this little podcast. And
is it your Keffels?
This is my Keffels, yes.
Okay.
And Jesse, I think that the best stories that we do, the best stories that a lot of people do, are about complicated characters. You know, people who on the surface seem to be one thing. They may be vilified by the public and the media. They might be canonized by the public and the media. But when you dig deeper, something else is going on. We've got one of those today. This is a story about a best-selling author, a woman who is a frequent guest and opinion haver on an array of British media outlets, including the BBC. She's also an influencer. She has 400,000 followers across social media. And according to her, her fans, and much of the media, this woman is a brave truth teller who has been targeted, attacked, and gang-stalked by an army of mostly anonymous trolls who want to see her ruined, if not dead.
They want to see her dead, like literally dead?
Literally dead. There was an alleged murder attempt, and I promise we will get to that. But the other side of the story is that this woman is a liar, a grifter, a fraud, and a danger to the...
No defamation.
No defamation.
We're talking about a British figure.
Yes.
So we need remember, just people who are new to the podcast, if you say negative things about someone, but you interject it with no defamation, it's like if someone's a cop, they have to say yes. Right. If you say no defamation, you can't be accused of defamation.
This is Trump's law.
Trump's law. So you were saying a liar, a grifter, and a fraud.
And a danger to the public who has conned the media and her followers into believing her ever-changing web of lies. So Jesse...
Blocked and Reported is an independent production of Katie Herzog, who bears all legal responsibility. Continue.
So over the next 3 episodes, we are going to get to the bottom of this mystery.
You mean you are? I'm not involved. Look.
He's been kidnapped.
Just again, anyone new? I'm a frequent guest on Blocked and Reported. I have no formal relationship with it. Continue.
We need to revisit this payment structure. So we are releasing the first episode for everyone right now. That's this episode. The next 2 episodes will be paywalled. They will be out very soon. If you want to hear the whole thing, and I think you do, you can join us at blockedandreported.org.
Okay, so who is this grifter, attempted murder victim, alleged, no defamation? Who's this lady?
Jesse, our main character today is Jessica Taylor. Have you ever heard of her?
I believe I follow her on Twitter. She is, in my head, I'm picturing maybe a gender critical type person.
Yes. She first came across my radar a couple years ago via Twitter when she was more overtly gender critical. She has fallen out of favor with the TERFs, or some of them. We will get to that.
That's weird. There's not usually any fighting in that corner of the internet.
It's such a copacetic group. One thing that's interesting to me about Jessica Taylor is that the TERF stuff does not seem to have hurt her career at all. Like, she's definitely moved away from that. She doesn't post much about trans anymore, so maybe that's her saving grace. But while, as you will hear, Jessica says that she's been attacked from every angle, one group she rarely mentions is trans rights activists. But that's how I first came across her in the TERF wars.
So what does she do?
She's basically an entrepreneur and influencer. So she owns a company called Victim Focus, which, among other things, they do what she calls trauma-informed trainings with organizations like police departments. So if you
so that's a little bit of a yellow flag already.
Explain that.
I've looked a little. Well, so the science of trauma is the site of like a fair amount of pop science bullshit. I've never like really, I think I was working on a pitch at some point about like the world of trauma informed trainings and so on. And I just think there's a lot of woo there and a lot of maybe not entirely scientific claims. Emily, a friend of the pod, Emily Yaffe, has in the past written some good stuff about like just false claims involving like trauma and sexual assault in memory.
Yeah.
So just trauma informed jumps out to me as like, okay, I wasn't interested in the story until now, but now I'm going to listen.
Okay. So if you have a police department that wants to change how they work with, say, victims of sexual assault, they might call Jessica Taylor for a training, and not just police departments. So Victim Focused they've done trainings with the NHS, with universities, with Housing Trust. We're going to focus more on victim focus in our last episode in the series. But in addition to that, she has a few other things going. So like she started a company called Orium Trauma Experts, which provides expert witnesses for legal cases. She also owns a sound bathing studio. Do you know what sound bathing is?
Is that where you just lie there and let sounds wash over you?
Basically, yeah. I'm actually surprised it's made it out of Joshua Tree and all the way to the UK. But it's basically meditating while a woman in baggy linen licks a finger and spins it around a wine glass.
That's my kink.
It's meditation with soothing sounds. I did it once. I fell asleep. It was very soothing.
Did it heal you?
I'm healed. Yes, I am healed.
Oh, okay.
So Jessica Taylor also does mentoring, personal, professional, and authorial. She's got a Substack. She's published now 5 books, including one that came out in June about internet stalking. We're going to focus on that book in the next episode. So she's got her hands in a lot of different stuff. She's very entrepreneurial. She's ambitious. She's self-made, successful. Her profile, trauma informed, yes. Her profile has grown a lot in recent years. And if there is a story in the British press about male violence or internet harassment, you may hear her quoted. So her academic background is in psychology. She's not a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. She does have a PhD in psychology, specifically the politics of criminal justice. She does not publish in academic journals. She says that's because they're exploitative. But her business is in the sector, Victim Focus is in the sector known as Violence Against Women and Girls, which I call VOG. Apparently no one else does. I had to check with Helen. Not an acronym, but I think we should start it.
Okay, VOG. How did she get into VOG? So
like a lot of women in this field, she is a survivor of male violence. Tons of it, in fact. At one point, she published a blog detailing 108 incidents of male violence that she survived.
Jesus.
Yeah, these are just the ones that she can remember offhand. She says that in reality, the number is probably in the thousands. So Jesse, let's read a bit from this blog post. Will you read this?
12 years old, 16-year-old boy pressured me to give him oral sex several times. Usually I was given drugs. 12 years old, 16-year-old boy, 19-year-old man gave me drugs and made me take clothes off. 12-year-old, same 16-year-old boy raped me and then mocked me for crying in pain. Told everyone I was pathetic, frigid. At 13 years old, in family pub with parents when a man stabbed another man in the eye right in front of me. This caused a brawl where 10 to 15 men smashed the pub up whilst I was trapped on the floor. Jesus Christ. I collapsed from the shock trauma. Family members dragged me unconscious to safety through broken glass and furniture, causing injury to my arms and legs. Woke up with paramedics. Do I have to keep reading these?
Keep going.
14 years old, attacked by a local man in an alleyway, strangled me and threatened me. The next year, he went on to be convicted of attempted murder of another local schoolgirl who he attacked her with meat cleaver at the summer fair. 15 years old, pushed out of moving car. 15 years old, thrown in front of a moving car in city center by abuser. Driver performs emergency stop before running me over. How the fuck did... Okay, this is horrible. Driver didn't dare get out to help me. How did she even survive? I mean, I guess you can survive getting run over.
She's a survivor, yeah. She says she was regularly raped as a teenager. She got pregnant by rape at 17. Her abuser tried to kill her and the baby by driving into oncoming traffic. She has the baby. She's raped postpartum. Her abuser attempts to electrocute her. Her abuser is charged with 13 counts of violent and sex crimes. He denies them all. He then sends her 47 death threats while on bail. The police ignore it. Her abuser kicks in her door to try to kill her. Police ignore that too. He sits outside and throws stones at her bedroom window.
Can I say something and
sure.
No one's allowed to get mad at me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you said this story's about a grifter.
No, I didn't. I said alleged grifter.
Alleged grifter. I will say a lot of these, I'm genuinely coming into this blind. All I know if you've been excited about this for a long time. Every day you call me like every 20 minutes to talk about it. You won't shut up. It's been really annoying. You've been on this. You've done a lot of work on this. So I don't know where this is going. I will say one hint to me is that a lot of what she's describing is both severe and specific enough that there'd probably be documentation of it.
There might be. I'm not done with my list yet.
Okay, continue.
So that was all before
you say a thing, and I'll tell you how likely it would be there'd be documentation.
That was all before she was 18. It gets worse from there. At one point, her abuser kidnaps her baby. The police say that's not a crime. She goes to...
Okay, that would be recorded somewhere.
She goes to a bank looking for a loan. A bank manager says he would give her money if she would sleep with him. She's repeatedly stalked and harassed. She's sent sexual messages by a priest. And she says, quote, due to being in public eye, I receive on average 3 threatening or abusive emails or messages from men per week.
I mean, that's absolutely believable. The rest, I'm a little bit skeptical.
It's a harrowing list, and you can see why she's so passionate about male violence, because she has been victimized herself over and over and over. Now, before she got into working in the women's sector, she actually worked with men. She's a lesbian now, married to a woman. But with her ex-husband, she founded an organization called the Eaton Foundation. Her married name was Eaton, and she said that they started the foundation in memory of her then father-in-law, who suffered from homelessness and alcoholism. And she says that the organization was very successful. They grew from 10 to 150 men in the first year. And she says this was the very first mental health and well-being center for men in the UK. Alas, the Eaton Foundation is now defunct. It is no longer registered with the UK Charities Commission. And the foundation's website, well, Jesse, just click that link.
Eaton encounters foundations of lost, meet local women in your area, get laid now. Katie, can I have a few minutes?
I think they forgot to renew the domain.
This looks pretty pornographic.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate in context.
It is. So she started out working with men, but she's long been a feminist and, of course, a survivor. And it was really some of her more feminist content that started to get her public attention. So in 2017, when she was still Jessica Eaton, she posted this thread on Twitter. Jesse, I'm going to ask you to read this.
Just did social experiment with my husband to teach him what being a female online is like. Thread, please retweet. Very 2017, be like, please retweet. I got him to enter a generic non-sexual forum as an 18-year-old male with boring chat name, and guess what? Nothing happened. I got him to log out after a while and make an 18-year-old female account with boring name. Within seconds, he had 8 inbox messages from men, and the first one he opened was a full pic of a guy's dick. Jesus. The other men were asking him if he was really 18 or if he was a child, and then started asking him to do sexual stuff. One account sent him porn gifs relentlessly. He got hundreds of messages in a few minutes and couldn't keep up. He then turned to me and said, "This is shocking. This has opened my eyes, Jess. This is horrible." That sort of reminds me of when people are like, my 3-year-old son just came up to me and said, "Daddy, why is Trump such a fascist?" I said
Jason
to him,
Stanley's children.
I said to him, "That's what you get for being female online," and he just stared as hundreds more messages poured in.
And then later in the thread, she said, "My husband actually said to me, 'Oh my God, babe, there's so many dicks,' and he dreaded opening the next message or photo. He learned a valuable lesson tonight, and eventually his phone actually died from the amount of messages blowing up his phone." Jesse, do you find this believable?
Is that how phones work?
Maybe. From just the more dick pics that you get.
It's so heavy with dicks that it collapses in on itself. I'm not trying to be the good male feminist I am, but like there's not a lot of stories about online male behavior that would shock me. It doesn't really, like an 18-year-old girl could randomly anywhere on the internet get stuff like that. The part that rang falser to me, if that's a word, and at this juncture I'm not sure, her husband's like wide dewy-eyed reaction, like, I had no idea how hard it was to be a woman online. So that's the part that seemed most off to me, but I don't know.
So, this was the story of Gamergate, right? The internet is dangerous for women.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, this has never aligned with my own experience. Like, I've gotten a lot of shit online. I've been dogpiled. I've been doxxed. People have harassed members of my family. But all of this has been a direct response to my work rather than a response to my sex or gender. And frankly, I think I get less shit than I would if I were a man online with the same views. Unlike you, I never get called a pedophile. No one makes up rumors about me being a chaser. I spent like a week on Twitter joking that the problem with the movie Cuties was that there weren't enough sex scenes. Nothing bad happened to me. If a man had done that, someone would have called his employer, if not the police.
I mean, it's so context dependent. I think there's corners of the internet where if you showed up as a woman, I agree. I think this idea, generally speaking, that as a woman, the second you go online, you're just smacked in the face with dick pics is overstated. Yeah. I think some corners of the internet are very nasty. And I do think like horny men on the internet are a menace and are like, there's a lot of them and they're just freaks.
Okay, well, I ran a little experiment. So Jess didn't name the forum in the thread, but she did say later in a comment that they Googled the term free chat room and then chose one that was explicitly non-sexual. So I did the same thing. The first forum that came up.
That's where you find the most freaks, though, is the explicitly non-sexual chat. I mean, that's like a kink for them.
So I started an account under the name Sophie T, which I thought sounded kind of sexy, kind of sophisticated, totally real, clearly female. And I entered a chat room. This is what people were talking about. The best pet-friendly flooring, LVP, for anyone wondering, how much they hate regrouting shower tile, elder pet care, sleep training babies, sleep in general, and chicken.
Chicken, the animal or the meat?
The animal is the meat, Jesse.
Wait, really? I thought they were different things. Did you get any DMs?
Yes. I stayed on the forum for about 20 minutes. I got 6 messages in that time. A few were creepy. One said, wanna play. This was from a user called SECKS, Sex Ed Student. I assume this was for class. Batman X.
Did you want to play?
Of course. Batman X asked, hey, are you horny? HRRNY. Do you want to have fun? Of course I did. Then a user called Male Fun, 2 Fs, asked what I was wearing, but he disappeared when I said sweatpants and a tie-dye shirt that my wife got in 5th grade.
So you replicated Jessica Taylor's finding. That as soon as you signed, why not?
Let me finish.
Okay.
Now, clearly some people, and by that I mean men, are going into these forums looking for someone to jerk off to, or if they're really lucky, jerk off with. Sadly, no dick pics. But I did the same thing with a man's name, same chat room. I went with Mikey Mike 420, and within 1 minute, literally 1 minute.
Well, if you put 420 in, people are going to assume you're DTF. It's not a controlled experiment, but continue.
Literally 1 minute of being on the forum. I hadn't posted anything in the chat. I got 11 DMs, presumably from sex bots. That said, I put screenshots in the notes, Jesse. Look at those. Read these.
Elise 54543, a 25-year-old female from Kansas. I'm searching for someone special for tonight only. Add me on Snap and message me fast. Snap user are okay. These are all just people who assume you're a horny man are trying to scam you.
Right. Okay, and then there's next one. Look at my profile.
Fuck me here,
yes.
xlove.life.
I got way more messages when I was Mikey Mike than I did as Sophie T. No comparison. Either way, I don't think that this experiment is representative of being a woman or a man online. I think it's representative of being in random chat rooms, particularly chat rooms with no dedicated subject. Like, would this happen in a Discord?
This is a very 1996 story.
It was 2017.
I logged onto my dial-up and I just went to a random chat room just to chat with
My
them.
point is, I just don't think that her experiment was actually representative of being a woman online. I am a woman online. I am not flooded with dick pics.
Sophie T.
I'm Sophie T. I am not flooded with dick pics.
But didn't she say, I'm not trying to be pedantic here or mansplain to you, good feminist. Didn't her version include a photo?
No, there was no photo. Same thing.
Okay. Sophie T. I'm trying to say my thing is Mikey Mike 420. You know that guy loves to party. He's the kind of guy who wants to sign up for some premium porn. Sophie T seems a little bit more vanilla. So I think there's a confound here.
Look, my point is, I just don't think that this is representative of anything.
Hey, I'm Mikey Mike 420. That's my legal name.
And if she had posted this same thread on Elon Musk X in 2026, I think there would have been skepticism. Someone would have done exactly what I did. But in Twitter in 2017, it seemed obviously true that women were constantly bombarded with dick pics. And the story went viral enough to get written up in various media outlets, including the Daily Mail and the Independent. So that was her early brush with internet fame.
If you did it on Elon Musk's Twitter, you would just get a bunch of people who have revisionary statistics about the Holocaust they want to share with you. So
this is one of Jess Taylor's main causes, online harassment. And in the early days, she was focused mostly on male harassers, particularly men's rights activists. So she was very involved in the Johnny Depp trial. Amber Heard blurbed her new book. But these days, she's focused not on male perpetrators, but on women. We will come back to that. Well, so what else? What other, if we're going to get back to that, what other background do I need to understand who this person is? Okay. So she has a PhD in psychology from the University of Birmingham. Her thesis was called, Logically, I know I'm not to blame, but I still feel to blame, exploring and measuring victim blaming and self-blame of women who have been subjected to sexual violence. It's a mouthful. While she was doing her graduate studies, she once again faced adversity, although this time it wasn't just sexism. It was because she herself was a victim of abuse. So here's how she described her experience on an essay that she posted on LinkedIn and elsewhere. So Jesse, read this.
In 2017, I won a tribunal process against a group of academics and professionals who had been harassing and bullying me based on my childhood, upbringing, and experiences of being raped. All of them worked in sexual violence and positioned themselves as compassionate experts. Instead, they showed in 110 pages of emails that they believed I should not be allowed to complete my PhD because I came from a council estate. That's not true. Because I was raped as a teenager. That's not true. And quote, because to have someone like her become a registered psychologist would undoubtedly bring the whole field into disrepute.
Yeah.
That's not true.
In your opinion.
That's definitely not. Like two of those three. This
is Jesse speaking now.
The quote, there could be, it's a selective quote. Maybe they said she would bring the field into disrepute or disrepute. I'm experiencing disrepute by not being able to pronounce it. The possibility in 2017 that they said she should not be allowed to complete her PhD because she came from council estate, which is like low-income housing over there, or because she was raped, it's this style of, I don't know what to call it. There's this type of person online who will be like, that person said, I don't deserve to live because I was raped. And then the actual chat is just something much different from that, where there's like, you have to distort it. That's what this comes across to me. But were you able to get any details on this?
So I tried to get a record of the tribunal from the University of Birmingham.
Did the tribunal happen? Was there a tribunal?
So first of all, University of Birmingham, it's not Cambridge.
They wouldn't just hand it over to a
they wouldn't,
journalist?
But they wouldn't. But also, this is a university with lots of working class people. She would not have been at all out of the ordinary in that setting. Anyway, didn't get anywhere when I tried to get details of the tribunal from the university. No surprise there. I did talk to people involved, and it is true that a number of professionals in her field were concerned about her, but it wasn't because she was raped or because she was from a council estate. It was because of her behavior.
What'd she do?
So it started with social media. Jessica had a habit of attacking people online by name, including other people in the field. So she would accuse people who criticized her work or her conduct of harassment and stalking. So a number of people in the field who knew her warned others about this, like, hey, watch out for this one. She's bad news. When Jessica found out, she went scorched earth. She filed the UK equivalent of public records requests to get the emails about her. This was coming from some academics. She could get those. And
if you're going to harass people, don't use your university emails.
Yeah. Call on the phone. She then complained to their universities, to governing bodies. She tried to get people fired. She tried to get their licenses revoked. And at least in one case, she told someone's employer that this person had been reported to the police.
By her. Like I had.
By her.
Yeah. Jason Arday style. Did she actually report them to the police?
This person never heard a word from police. As you will hear, this is a recurring pattern. Jessica will report someone to the police. The police do not seem to give a fuck. She then frames this as police not taking victims.
This was 2017 before the UK. If someone was like, someone was mean to me online, today they'll just drop everything they're doing.
No.
Investigate them. But back then it was not like that.
As you will hear, she reports a lot of people to police. Okay. And the police seem to want her to lose their number based on their reactions. So her campaign largely failed, and in fact, one of her targets actually received a small settlement from her own university over their own handling of Jess's claims, but this person described it as a harrowing experience. Okay. Despite the drama, while Jess was working on her PhD, she founded this company, Victim Focus, which, yes, we mentioned this, they do trainings for organizations like police departments. They do other things too, like webinars, they sell courses. We're going to come back to Victim Focus later. But it's during this period, after finishing her PhD, when Jess self-published her first book. It's called Why Women Are Blamed for Everything.
Sorry.
You laugh?
It was just funny because she'd apparently spent years harassing people. And then they were like, she got in trouble for it. And then she's like, why are you blaming? Are you just blaming me for this because I'm a woman? We get blamed for everything. Yep. It do be like that.
So this was based on her PhD thesis, and it was an unexpected success. She says it sold 10,000 copies in just 6 weeks, which is remarkable for a self-published book that isn't about minotaurs having sex.
Gotcha. Yeah, how did it get so big?
Well, for one, J.K. Rowling tweeted about it, and the strength of Jess's sales led to her getting signed with Rowling's own literary agency. What's more, Why Women Are Blamed for Everything was then picked up by an imprint of Hachette, and she got a multi-book publishing deal with Little Brown.
Damn.
So every author's dream, yeah. That said, there was a nasty backlash over that book. So The Guardian published this article in 2020. Jesse, please read this headline.
Author of book about victim blaming bombarded with misogynistic abuse, Dr. Jessica Taylor has been speaking about her book, Why Women Are Blamed for Everything, but has received thousands of abusive messages and seen her computer hacked.
All right, so read this passage from that.
Since 17 April, that will never not drive me crazy, those fucking Brits, Taylor has been targeted by what she describes as a, quote, group of organized trolls, end quote, who align themselves with the, quote, alt-right, end quote, men's rights activists, incel, involuntary celibates, and MGTOW, men going their own way. MGTOW, which is like even more extreme men's rights movements, who have posted thousands of messages on her public Facebook page, including rape and death threats. On 21 April... Just stop. Taylor contacted police when the screen on her laptop was remotely accessed. The investigation is ongoing.
So she says that someone...
That seems bad. I believe that. Like that era on the internet was crazy. I believe that.
She says that someone hacked her devices. This actually happened to her multiple times. Probably time to change the password. She says that for 5 days, she received hundreds of messages every few minutes. Quote, everything from telling me to die, kill myself, messages saying I will rape you, messages saying I'm not a real psychologist or PhD, that I'm fat, ugly, disgusting, dyke, ugly, lesbian, barren, infertile, will die alone, that my parents hate me, etc. When we started banning and blocking, they really ramped it up and it became violent and abusive. She says that she blocked over 2,000 Facebook accounts. Not fun, but of course, she's a woman online, she's used to it, and this does not shut her up. She just becomes more determined. So we're going to skip forward a bit. Okay. 2022. This is when Jess published another book, Sexy But Psycho. Great name. This one is also a big success. It lands on the Sunday Times bestseller list, and by now, Jess has become a talking head for the British media on issues of feminism and male violence. She got a lot of media attention during the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, and during that, The Independent wrote, quote, Jessica Taylor, who specializes in sexual violence and victim blaming, told The Independent that dozens of women have told her that their abusive male partner or ex-partner referred to them as Amber or Miss Heard after they tried to stand up for themselves. Dozens, Jesse, dozens. They all reached out to Jessica Taylor.
Do you believe that?
I'll say this. I talked to 2 of her former employees who had access to her social media at different times. Both said that she had this real tendency to exaggerate. Like she would sell a few training courses and then get online and say that she sold hundreds. Same with threats. I searched her tweets for the word hundreds, and she said at various points that she reported hundreds of rape and death threats to police, that hundreds of mental health professionals reached out to her to say they agree with J.K. Rowling, that hundreds of women are in her DMs telling her they regret becoming mothers. It's a lot of hundreds.
How many followers does she have?
Currently 100,000 on X, 90,000 on Instagram, 50,000 on TikTok, 170 on Facebook. She frequently says that she has 500,000 followers across platforms. By my math, it's closer to 400,000. It's still...
There's also going to be a lot of overlap.
There's going to be a lot of overlap. But she does have a lot of fans who buy everything she sells.
Why don't we have fans who will buy anything we sell?
I know.
I guess we don't sell enough stuff.
Yeah, she does have a merch store. We don't.
Yeah.
She also has a lot of haters, and to them, nearly everything she says rings false, including her claims of being a victim of rampant online abuse.
And do they have, there's obviously this is a woman who has made a lot of claims, so I'm not going to automatically side with her, but do the people who say she's making stuff up have any evidence of that in terms of the online abuse stuff?
So the abuse she claims to receive is largely invisible on more public-facing forums like Facebook and X. So some people get mountains of abuse online. Patrick Tomlinson, he's the most obvious example.
Child.
Every time he tweets, someone is calling him Fatrick. Then you've got, Taylor Lorenz, someone who's hated both by the online right, now the online left too. It's easy to see the abuse directed their ways. Even you, like I can look up your name or your replies and I can get a sense of what people are saying about you. And that's just not true with Jessica Taylor. Her replies are generally fine. I searched her X mentions for common words you'd expect to see from someone who is frequently the subject of misogynistic harassment.
Like what words?
Cunt, bitch, rape, things like that. Someone called her a cunt for defending a UK politician who resigned after a tax scandal.
But if they're British, you can use that word.
Yeah. I think the precise phrase was fuck off, you deluded cunt, which does sound like an insult. Someone in another thread called her a demon.
You've got it really good at better understanding human sentiment. Mm-hmm. You correctly pegged that.
A Johnny Depp fan called her a gaslighting bitch. At one point, she got dogpiled for complaining that Mattel's autistic Barbie was too pretty. So there was some...
Sorry, what? One more time. Say that again.
I think she wanted the autistic Barbie to look less like Barbie and more autistic.
The autistic Barbie was too pretty.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was some name calling on public forums like X, but less than you might expect. And again, one of the former employees I spoke to who had access to her professional Facebook page, when I asked her about the abuse she saw, she said there were occasional abusive messages, sure, just like anyone in the public eye, and pretty much any woman with open DMs, you get cranks and pervy men messaging, but she wasn't under relentless attack like she claims.
Also, not to victim blame, but like I don't have open DMs on Twitter because you shouldn't do that. Yeah.
So not a huge amount of abuse on the standard platforms, although when she tweets something particularly inflammatory, you will see it in the replies. We'll get into that in a moment. But what you will find is that her critics mostly are not men's rights activists or men at all. They are mental health workers and patients, women working in the violence against women and girls sector, and fellow feminists, many of whom claim that she is dangerous.
How is she dangerous?
Okay, like I said, Jess has a PhD in psychology. She is not a clinical psychologist or an MD. She cannot give medical advice. She cannot see patients. That said, she goes by doctor, including on social media, and so people tend to assume that she's an MD or a clinician, which gives more weight to her opinions, including on stuff she has no academic or clinical experience with. So that's one of the complaints, that she has no business weighing in on clinical issues when she has no clinical expertise. And the problem to her critics, it's not just Jess's own social media posts, it's that she's treated as an expert by the media. So for instance, she was quoted in The Independent as a, quote, prominent psychologist who opposes electroconvulsive therapy or ECT. And the fear, she's very against ECT, and the fear is that people are going to assume, here's a doctor, Dr. Jess, saying ECT is bad, therefore ECT is bad.
Yeah. Well, and ECT is one of those things where my understanding is like again, I don't inherently trust science, but there's a subset of people with treatment refractory depression who appear to benefit from ECT. It's not like one flew over the cuckoo's nest thing. It's like a legitimate treatment. So you would not, at the very least, if someone's going to criticize it, you would want them to do so from a place of expertise or some new research or research analysis. It doesn't sound like that's her.
Right. She's also skeptical of talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, which she considers victim blaming, and psychiatric medications. So Jesse, read this tweet.
Every time I see new annual stats on how many tens of millions of people are being prescribed psychiatric medication just so they can perform in capitalism, I think of the opening scenes of Lego Movie. Everything is awesome. It's just the most perfectly accurate look at the world. This seems like a bit, I'm sure there is like overprescription, but this is a bit much. Just so they can perform in capitalism.
She is, however, very into sound bathing and meditation, which she says saved her life. Now, look, I do think there's plenty of good faith debate to be had here. The history of psychiatry is messy. Obviously, many treatments should never have been bestowed onto an unsuspecting population. I even agree with her that some populations are over-medicated. Too many doctors are quick to diagnose and prescribe. I've had this experience myself. I get it. I think that people need to be more aware of the risks of psychiatric medications, of course. But I don't put the word doctor in front of my name and let people assume I'm an expert when I'm spouting off about shit I have no expertise in.
No, there's also a tendency, and Freddie DeBoer is good on this, of only focusing on one side of the ledger of the possibility of like corrupt pharmaceutical companies. And they are corrupt. Sometimes they corrupt research and side effects and downsides, and not realizing that for some people, medication is the difference between a decent life and a not decent life.
Yes.
Especially people with like certain really severe conditions.
Yes. So there's all that stuff. But the big red flag, the biggest red flag for Jess's critics, including professionals in the field, is that Jessica Taylor, PhD, does not believe in mental illness.
Come again?
She calls herself anti-pathology. She thinks that personality disorders, things like bipolar disorder or even schizophrenia, are simply the patient, typically a woman, responding to trauma.
If that's really her full explanation, if you develop some symptom as a result of an external factor, that doesn't make it not, okay, anyway, I don't get it so far. Okay. The thing is, once you understand that absolutely every single mental health disorder, in quotes, is actually either a trauma response or a coping mechanism, it changes the way you look at everything. That does not make sense. Some people drink every day to the point of blacking out, not that you know anything about this, as a coping mechanism. Just because it's a coping mechanism, it
because it's fun.
That doesn't mean it's not a mental illness. I guess it would depend on her definition, but this seems sort of superficial thinking.
Okay, read this post. This is from Facebook.
I don't believe in the concept of delirium. That's definitely a real thing. I don't believe in the concept of OCD, also a real thing. Hallucinations are more common in the general population than in people with diagnosed psychiatric disorders. No. And are socially constructed. Read some Ian Hacking. That doesn't mean anything to say they're socially constructed. Their meanings are subjective. Hallucinations are not in themselves mental disorders or psychiatric at all. I don't accept the theoretical basis of the concept of depression at all.
And that's depression is in scare quotes.
She likes the scare quotes. Hypothyroidism is not psychiatric.
That seems okay.
I don't really get where that's coming from. Schizophrenia is one of the most highly and commonly contested quote-unquote disorders of them all and will likely be totally re-theorized in coming years. It has a long and complex history with racism and oppression, and I don't believe it exists. She keeps doing this thing where it has a long and complex history with racism and oppression. Sure. Which mental health condition doesn't? That doesn't really cast doubt on the underlying construct. Or that anyway, yeah.
It does for Jess. Okay, just a few more. She posted this about people who hear voices. What if we are supposed to be able to see and hear things? What if they have a purpose? What if we've been chalking it all up to mental illness and stigmatizing it for so long that we haven't even realized what these mechanisms are for? And then here's another one. Read this one.
Don't you think it's interesting that psychiatry created several different quote-unquote mental disorders which revolve around the following? Loving yourself, thinking you are brilliant, thinking you are really good at... Is it going to turn out she's just bipolar? Putting yourself first. Oh, so you're saying self-care is mental illness? Believing you have important purpose on earth, believing your life has important meaning, believing that one day you will be the best at something, believing you have a higher purpose on earth, because I think that it was deliberate. But that's not... none of those things are... Those are only mental disorders in a particular context if you believe them very strongly and it affects your functioning. She seems to not know exactly what a mental illness is in a DSM sense.
She seems to be saying it's not delusions of grandeur if you really fucking rule.
If it's true. Yeah.
So she says that what the rest of us would call mental illness or even psychosis are just natural responses to trauma. So Jesse, read this from her Substack.
God, stuff makes my head hurt. One of the questions I am asked frequently is whether I believe all quote unquote mental illnesses are related to human trauma. I always say yes. Some people struggle with my answer because their understanding of what constitutes a trauma is still limited. They don't understand yet that the potential list of human traumas is truly staggering. So she's defining trauma probably so broadly it's meaningless, and then saying all mental illness, which is also something she doesn't seem interested in defining carefully. All mental illness is caused by trauma. Okay.
She has an actual list of traumas. Some of it is obvious, like being sexually abused as a child, the death of a child, being stabbed, burned, or shot. That's on her list. But it also includes this. Number 151, living in a capitalist society where your worth is based on performance and money. 153, being lonely. 154, wanting something you cannot have or will never be able to achieve.
This is like a circa 2018 list of trigger warnings in an English class at Oberlin.
I do think it was traumatizing that I wasn't at Taylor Swift's wedding. I think she's onto something here. Yeah.
Same.
Number 161, developing serious allergies. 163, being put under immense pressure to succeed or make something of yourself. 164, failing at something you expected to succeed in.
Oh, God, there's we're not going to talk about it this episode, but there's a controversy with this Substacker who's a genuine Nazi now after sort of flirting at the edges a bit for a while.
Oh, Derek Cooper.
But this Substack's Derek Cooper. This Substack's worse so far.
Hyper-focus of the week.
My other fixation. This is way worse. What I'm saying is Jessica Taylor's Substack is worse than Nazism.
Hey, no defamation.
No defamation.
In Jesse's opinion.
In my opinion.
So according to her definition, we are all traumatized because normal experiences are traumatizing. But it also seems a bit inconsistent because she says she's anti-pathology, but she is also pathologizing absolutely unavoidable and really normal experiences of life.
Yeah.
Now, as you might expect, her unorthodox views have led to many alleged threats, which I almost do believe because I've seen how pissed people can get when you gently suggest therapy might have some downsides. So in 2015, she published this post on her Substack, which is called, and I'm not kidding, What Would Jess Say? Do you get that?
Instead of Jesus?
I assume so. What would Jesus do? The fucking bracelets people wore in the...
She was just saying that delusions of grandeur shouldn't be a mental health symptom.
So Jesse, read this from her Substack. This is the headline here.
Today marks 5 years of being targeted for trauma-informed. Again, when someone says something like that, it's is that really it?
Is that why?
You're being targeted just for being trauma-informed? This is the true cost of speaking out. Okay.
She's then got a long list of ways that she's been attacked for what she says is centering this trauma-informed approach. Other people might describe this as denying the existence of mental illness. She says, among other things, quote, the British Psychological Society received a telephone threat to their offices from someone demanding them to take action against me or something would happen to them.
Oi! You gotta do something about that bird, Jessica Taylor, or something might happen to you. That makes no fucking sense. Were you able to confirm that? Were you able to look into it?
I asked Jess for documentation. She did not provide it. I also reached out to the British Psychological Society. They declined to comment. But I actually don't doubt that at least someone contacted them to complain about her, because what Jess frames as this trauma-informed approach is actually much more radical. She doesn't believe in mental illness, and she tweets things like this. Read this one.
The history of schizophrenia is zero science and 100% abuse of marginalized groups. This is the complicating factor with some victims of harassment, including some Gamergate era ones. If you over and over and over and over tweet a lot of shit that is going to infuriate people, it doesn't mean harassment is warranted. I hope anyone who threatens her with violence gets a visit from the police at the very least. But you can't really pretend to be surprised that when you say there's no science to the history of schizophrenia, which is as anyone who knows someone who's schizophrenic knows that it destroys their lives. I can see people being really offended by that.
Well, mental health Twitter can be a little insane. And she got some very heated responses to tweets like this. So, Jesse, read a couple more of her examples about how she's been attacked. This is from that same Substack post that you just read the headline of.
A GMC, General Medical Council registered psychiatrist in the UK, shared a post calling for me to be raped by a metal bar covered in barbed wire. That strikes me as something that didn't happen. I have had countless vexation complaints submitted to my regulatory body, and even to 2 regulatory bodies I am not even registered with. Every time I have to submit counter evidence or provide proof that the complaints are malicious, which deliberately waste months of my time. Before I continue, I don't like trying to get people in that level of trouble, but if you go online and call yourself Dr. Jessica Taylor, and you say things like you don't believe in mental health, you shouldn't necessarily be surprised if people contact the licensing body. I've been kicked off conferences, marches, and events due to my views, or due to someone complaining that my views are dangerous and shouldn't be shared, ... I received an anonymous email telling me I was being targeted. My life was at risk due to my work criticizing psychiatry. She's also very much in this, there's a crazy school of hardcore anti-psychiatry that has done a lot of damage. Again, see Freddie DeBoer. And there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. Rumors and lies have been spread about my sexuality, my personal life, my children, my wife. Nothing has been off limits to these people, and professionals and colleagues who had known me 4 years, believed every word. So how much evidence has she provided for this stuff?
So Jess was not forthcoming when I asked for documentation of basically anything. I wasn't able to independently confirm everything in the post. I did find a few things. So she has been uninvited from conferences. That's true. Regulatory bodies have received complaints. That's true. This is not all because of this trauma-informed approach. As you will hear later, there are other controversies.
Sure, but psychiatrists sharing a post calling for her to be raped? That can't be true.
That's actually true. So what happened here, someone who tweets under the name Stigma Buster, so this is someone who is trying and I believe failing to bust stigma against mental illness. This is a person with mental illness. This person was pissed about her mental illness doesn't exist tweets and posted this. Jesse, read this post.
I'm tired and couldn't be arsed finding words for this. Lazy version is, at Dr. Jess Taylor, you're a harmful, ignorant, fucking dipshit. Fuck you in the arse with a barbed pole. Have a nice day. Okay, that's technically saying she should be raped with a barbed pole.
Well, she framed this as a sexually violent threat. That sort of reminded me of Chris Rufo saying that someone telling his wife to get bent was a sexually violent threat.
Yeah.
That one was dumber.
Yeah.
Saying fuck you in the
arse with a rusty.
Rude. It's very rude. But I don't think most rational people would consider this a threat.
No. Especially someone like her who's experienced actual threat. I almost think that would make you more attuned to online bullshit versus that's not a legitimate threat.
It is true that an NHS psychiatrist reposted this.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yes. He later deleted and apologized. Obviously unprofessional. Yes, she did report him to the NHS. She later posted on TikTok and elsewhere that there had been some kind of punishment for him.
Which, by the way, if you're a licensed psychiatrist, you can't retweet shit like
totally
that.
Fair.
You shouldn't be fired, but yes. you can't do that.
Totally. A similar scene takes place in her new book. We're going to focus on the book in the next episode. It's slightly different in the book. So Jesse, read this passage. This is from the book.
I opened my phone at the dinner table one night and found messages and comments from an anonymous account describing how they wanted to, quote, rape you with a metal bar until you die, end quote, slice your clit off, end quote. But wait, is that supposed to be the same tweet?
I asked her. She declined to elaborate. As you'll hear in the next episode, in the book, she takes liberties with exact quotations.
You can't do that if it's an exact quote.
We will get into that. It's a thing.
No, Katie, no, you can't do that. I know you think you can do that. You can't.
So I'll post a link to that Substack post so people can see it. But again, so this is her saying that all of this was because she was attacked because of her trauma-informed beliefs. And the trauma-informed beliefs, these are not the only unorthodox beliefs that she holds. So Jesse, she doesn't think that mental illness exists. She does believe in satanic ritual abuse. So read this tweet.
Ritual sexual abuse and satanic sexual abuse is real. I've worked with victims myself. I've also worked with covert... What does she mean worked with... I thought she wasn't a clinician.
This is one of the criticisms about her, is that she will say that she has worked with victims and she
has a doctor next to her name. Yeah. Yes. Anyone would think she's a clinical psychologist. Right. I've also worked with covert teams who investigate these cults in organized groups. It's just in terms of like a credibility marker. Mm-hmm. I worked with secret teams that investigate Satan's hoofprints. I hate that she continues. I hate the way people invalidate and ignore victims of ritual abuse, so I'm publicly standing up.
Heart emoji.
Heart emoji.
Which you just did, Jesse. You invalidated. She also wrote about this in her book, Sexy But Psycho. So Jesse, please read this passage.
In 2013, I worked with several women who were subjected to ritual and satanic abuse in Wales. Their experiences were some of the worst I'd ever heard, and it was around that time that I realized I needed to learn much more about ritual and satanic abuse. One woman in particular was called Amy, and she was in her early 20s when she told me that her parents and local priests had raped and abused her for years, deliberately got her pregnant, and then carried out abortions as ritual sacrifices to Satan. None of this will sound new to anyone familiar with like the panic from the 90s in the States and elsewhere. She estimated that she had been subjected to at least 12 pregnancies, which ranged from 11 to 20 weeks in length. She was also forced to eat feces and the still warm flesh of goats and chickens that had been slaughtered in front of her as sacrifices. That happened.
Yeah, so there's stuff like that. She also has a tendency to publicly post and say things that come across as very implausible. So at one point she tweeted, "Last year I became extremely ill on the cancer/gastro ward where I was weighed regularly. I kept being congratulated on my weight loss because I hadn't eaten in 44 days.
That's not how anything works.
Okay, first of all, you didn't eat for 44 days. Who are you, Ariana Grande? And look, maybe things are different in the UK, but I showed this to Jana. She's a nurse.
Well, hold on. You don't need to show. Don't ask Jana. Ask me, because I'm just. They feed you. They give you.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what Jana was commenting on was would someone working in healthcare compliment you on weight loss
in a cancer war?
Yes.
The oncology nurse is like, you look amazing. Yes. Your bones are poking right. I will say, I think what was the exact phrasing? I kept being congratulated. Yeah, that sounds like it was her clinicians. That makes no sense.
Or the other cancer patients were like, "Girl, you're looking good."
Me? I didn't mean to silence Jana. I also just was so skeptical. I could be missing something, but like that you would even.
It's very Jordan Peterson.
Not eat in, and like they would give you nutritional assistance, I would think. But
right. Jana did say that she could believe the nurses in the Philippines would congratulate her on her weight loss, but probably not the UK.
Katie, do your Filipino accent of a nurse?
Luckily, Jess did find a solution. Jesse, read this post.
Since being able to leave my miserable het marriage and come out as a lesbian, all of my health issues that have plagued me for 2 fucking decades have suddenly disappeared. It was the penis was infecting her body with pathogens.
Lesbianism will cure what ails you, folks. Try it.
You said earlier that she was like turfy, but so there was drama there with the other gender critical people?
Yes. So this gets into what has been probably the biggest scandal in Jessica Taylor's career, but let's do housekeeping first.
This is a podcast. You can find us at blockreporter.org. And if you go there, you'll see that the best way to support us is to become a premium subscriber, particularly pertinent here, because you're going to want to hear the rest of this, right? They'd be crazy not to.
I think so.
It's a 12-parter? It's a
We're just getting to the good shit.
Yeah, if you want to hear this in full, go to blockreporter.org and become a premium subscriber. On top of that, comedy, me and Helen Lewis, Comedy Cellar, September 22nd. The other thing is, if you're in the DC area, keep your eyes peeled, Katie. There might be another.
They're peeled.
You've peeled your eyes right now.
Jesse's gonna go swim in the
Potomac?
what's it called?
What's it called? The river? The reflecting pool.
The reflecting pool.
I'm gonna sabotage. That would be so ballsy.
Don't say that.
Fuck it. I'm gonna sabotage the reflecting pool. I don't care if it's a crime. I feel really strongly about this. I'm gonna dump algae in there. No, there's a strong chance I will be doing a live event in DC with a friend of the pod on. Wait for it. Wait, Katie, wait for it.
I'm waiting.
Wednesday, September 30th. Keep your Wednesday, September 30th open if you're in DC and you think I'm cool, I guess, is the best way to put it. The least weird way.
All right, so no one will be there.
Wow, burned.
All right, Jesse, you just asked about Jessica Taylor and the TERFs. She's definitely gender critical, as are many women working in the women's sector and violence against women and girls vlog. I think at the beginning there was some solidarity, but that is well over, largely due to something that happened in early spring 2022. So I found out about this that fall when a journalist named Julian Vigo released a 2-part essay about Jess Taylor. It's called A Psychologist Victim Ponzi Scheme, and it starts with this author's note. So Jesse, read this.
Publication note. When I started researching this piece over a year ago, many women feared coming forth due to reprisal. I had to put this project on the back burner until several weeks ago when many more women and professionals who were willing to speak out and be named contacted me. Each day while writing this article over the past week, so many people have come forth with their stories that this project is now impossible to contain within one article. Hence, this article represents the first of a multi-part series on this scandal. Damn.
So it's a long essay, and it starts with a psychotherapist named Rose Latham. Vigo writes that Latham was initially impressed with Taylor, but, quote, the scales fell from Latham's eyes in spring 2022 when she was forced to confront a tsunami of incidents that ranged from unethical to downright corrupt, which left her no choice but to pull briskly away from Taylor and her project and denounce on social media the professional malfeasance she observed.
What was the professional malfeasance she observed?
Okay, so some of it was financial. Rose Latham told Vigo, quote, I first had my doubts when she sent out an email asking to support her fundraiser to translate her book. She was asking for £40,000. Is that a lot?
I guess there could be details here I don't get, but the way it works, in my experience and understanding,
the publisher pays for it.
Well, the publisher, the rights are bought by a publisher in another country.
Right.
Then, of course, you don't have to pay for the. I just don't understand how this would work, but I could be missing something. It's odd. And 40. I don't know. It seems a little weird to me, but I don't know the details.
All right, back to Latham. She says, then there were many fundraisers that would be set up for so many thousands of pounds, and these accounts would be shut down with no explanation once the funds had been raised. Latham also told Vigo that she thought that the company Jess used to sell her courses is unethical because they have a buy now, pay later model. It's Klarna. Like it could fuck up people's credit scores. But there were some other things, but the allegation that really destroyed her reputation with the gender crits started in March 2022 when a woman named Sally Ann Robinson, a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, she tweeted that her story had been published in a book without her consent. That book was Why Women Are Blamed for Everything by Dr. Jessica Taylor, which had been published 2 years before.
So did Jess not change her name or identifying details?
She did. She called her Faye in the book, but it was clear to Sally Ann that this was her.
And so wait, the book came out when and she tweeted about it when?
The book came out in 2020. She tweeted about it in 2022. And the reason she tweeted about it on the day that she did in 2022 was because Jess had a new book out. This was Sexy But Psycho. And the day Sally Ann tweeted about this was the day Sexy But Psycho landed on the Sunday Times bestseller list.
Huh. Okay, so she was upset about that.
She was mad. So Sally Ann told me, it was like someone had tossed me a hot potato. I had to get rid of it. And so in a flash of rage, she tweeted, she didn't name Jess or the book, at least at first. She told me that this was completely spontaneous. She later deleted the tweets, but the rumor had already started to spread. So Rose Latham saw these posts and she tweeted her support to Sally Ann. At the time, she didn't know that Sally Ann was talking about Jess. Rose Latham was friendly with Jess, but Latham says that she started getting messages from Jess denying that the person in the book was Sally Ann. So Vigo published those messages from Jess to Latham in her essay. So Jesse, please read this. This is Jess writing to Latham.
Jess writing to Latham denying that this person she wrote about was Sally Ann.
Yes.
I desperately needed her to tell the truth, and she knows she's lying.
Yeah, so at first, Latham believes her. But let's pause here for a second, Jesse. So using someone's story in your book without their consent, smash or pass?
It totally depends. I mean, childhood sexual abuse, you would think you wouldn't. It totally depends on the context. One time I got dragged for including a line from therapist notes. This was the great HIPAA scandal of whenever the fuck that was. And I saw journalists arguing, even though it was clearly the person was not, I included no identifiable details because they were minor. At least some journalists were like, well, the person who's the subject would notice it was her. But that's not the point of protecting people's identity. Right. The point is to not subject them to scrutiny in the public. But anyway, what happened here?
Okay, so the story is slightly more complicated than just using an off-the-record story and putting it in your book, because in 2018, Sally Ann had consented to let Jess use this story in a blog post. The story is written in the first person under the name Faye. Jess reproduced that. First, she put it in a report, and then she put it in a book without Sally Ann's consent.
Sorry, you said a report?
Yeah, just a report that she published about, it was about...
On a blog post, you mean?
No, it was, first she did it as a blog post, then it's this other like published report, like self-published report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then she put it in the book without Sally Ann's consent. So does that...
So she'd gotten permission to use it on the blog post?
Right.
But not in the book?
Right.
Yeah, that's very sloppy. That's not as like malicious as using someone's story totally without consent when they're not expecting you to, but that's really sloppy.
So there's another complicated aspect of this that we need to discuss, because the story that spread on social media was, I think, a bit inaccurate. And that story was that Sally Ann found out about this, found out that she was in the book from her support worker. So that's like her social worker. The story was that the social worker saw this passage in a book, she recognized Sally Ann, and she told her about it. Vigo lays out what actually happened in a bit more detail. She says that after Sally Ann posted that first tweet accusing an author of stealing her story but not naming the author, Sally Ann quickly got a DM from Jess that read, quote, "Hey you, I just saw your tweet about the person who has used your experiences. Is there anything you can do? XX."
Okay, so the accused is reaching out.
Right, because Sally Ann hasn't named her yet.
Okay.
Sally Ann responds, and she says it was her social worker who informed her, who saw her in the book. Then she blocks Jess, and she takes a screenshot of Jess's message, and she posts it. She blurred out Jess's name and photo, but it was obvious who it was. She didn't blur it out very well. So that's how this started to spread. The thing is, Sally Ann later told Julian Vigo that it wasn't a social worker who told her that she was in the book. It was her friend. And Sally Ann told Vigo...
Wait, so why'd she say social worker?
Sorry, it's not social worker. It's support worker, which is like a more, like helps with like daily living tasks. But anyway, she told Vigo that she told Jess this because she thought that she was afraid that Jess would like figure out who the friend was, like going through her friend list and start targeting her friends. And she thought that she wouldn't target a professional. It's a little thin.
So it's like 12-dimensional chess, or at least 5-dimensional chess.
That's not what happened. Instead, Jess started telling people that it was Sally Ann's support worker, and she named the agency. She said the agency itself was out to get her and that she was going to file a complaint.
Oh my God. She really likes to complain like that.
Right.
Okay, so but the support worker didn't actually have anything to do with it?
Right. As far as I know, that's correct. So it appears to me that it's likely true that Jess used Sally Ann's story without her consent, but the story that everyone knows about how Sally Ann found out is not correct. At least it's according to Julian Vigo's retelling. There was no support worker.
Okay. Huh.
And I checked with Sally Ann myself to see if everything in Vigo's piece was accurate, and she said yes. It's complicated. There's a big web here. Okay, thank you for sticking with me.
Of course.
So when this started circulating, one of the things that people asked was, did Jess not get consent forms for the subjects in the book? I had to get consent forms for the subjects in my book. This was sort of a surprise to me. It came after I turned in the manuscript. I hadn't gotten them before I did interviews, and then I had to go back and send them and then like annoy people until they signed them and got back to me. And this is just not something I had never done with publishing in newspapers.
They should have, if they wanted that, they should have told you that when
they probably did.
Because what if you then, you were too high to remember?
No, I was too drunk. But I had to do it later.
No, not drunk. You successfully stopped drinking because of the treatment.
But Jess said that she did get consent forms from everyone in the book, but of course she said that she couldn't share them because that would violate the victim's privacy. So Sally Ann has always maintained that this is her story. She's Faye. She didn't consent, and she wanted the story removed from the book. So she wrote to Jess's publisher demanding that it be removed. And she wrote to the Publishers Association saying that she was logging a complaint against the publisher.
So what did they, this is complicated for a few different reasons, but what do they say? Publishers
Association, this is a trade group. They say, not our problem. But she got 2 responses from Little Brown, the publisher. The first said, "We don't need your this is a quote. We did not need your consent as Faye was a made-up name and no one was identifiable from the text." Sally Ann kept pushing. The publisher brings in the lawyer, and the lawyer says, "This was previously published. This was in the blog post. It was in the report. We don't need your consent," and they aren't going to delete it.
Okay, but they're admitting that Faye is Sally Ann.
That's how I read it, but Jessica Taylor did not make that argument. Her argument has always been, it's not Sally Ann. Sally Ann is lying. But then it happens again. So Rose Latham, the psychiatrist, she starts reading Taylor's new book, Sexy But Psycho, and she recognized someone she knew in it, a woman named Rosie Flatman. And she goes to Rosie and she says, "Hey, did you know that you're in this book?" Rosie had no idea.
Wait, so Rosie was surprised? Like, what was the context where she talked to Jess?
She told her story casually over Chinese food, assuming it was a private conversation.
Oh, that's really bad. Did Jess deny this one too?
She did, but it didn't help her case that in the book, she wrote that she learned this woman's story over Chinese food. Plus, she had posted photos on social media of her and Rosie eating, yes, Chinese food.
Oh, man. And I just want to be clear. I feel like I was too vague about this earlier. Was I too vague? I'm trying to think of an instance where you wouldn't need someone's explicit consent.
I didn't get Rosie Flatman's consent to tell this story. I didn't get Jess's consent to tell this story.
Well, no, but
there are many times when you can tell someone's story without consent. With sexual abuse,
no, of course. Childhood sexual abuse, you'd want to be more careful.
Super careful.
If you found out secondhand someone was abused as a child and you didn't use their name, you could include that story if it was relevant to other stuff. I would just want to fuzz up the details so they weren't. If you verified it, yeah. The first one of these, I just don't have as much sympathy for someone who signs a consent form. It's in a blog. She should not have. She never signed a consent form. Oh, she didn't sign a consent form. She gave some sort of consent to have it in the blog, and then it gets in the report, and then it gets in the book. I can see how she'd be pissed, but she fundamentally gave consent for it to be public, and then to ask the publisher to basically pulp existing copies of the book is not realistic, I don't think. This other one is much more shadier to my mind, of just someone tells you something over Chinese food and you just use it. Also, they didn't go back for like a fact check, or they didn't get in touch with her to check anything before it was published.
It's a book, you know.
What do you mean it's a book?
The book publisher isn't going to fact check it. Jess would have to do it herself.
Well, no, but I'm saying it suggests there was no fact check process at all.
I don't think there was a fact check process. Yeah, and so there's a pattern here. And Rose Latham, she feels like a fool for believing Jess. She also finds out that
For believing that when Jess denied this.
Yes. She also finds out that Jess is having a lot of the same conversations behind the scenes, telling people that Sally Ann Robinson is lying.
So she's calling a liar the person who technically accurately, that she used her story without her consent?
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes. So Rosie, by the way, Rosie Flatman, there's too many Jesses, too many Rosies in this story, too many Jessicas, way too many of your kind, too many Jessies.
Jessica the 80s baby?
Yes, she's also in this. She'll come in later. Rosie, by the way, also reached out to Jessica's publisher. She said, quote, "I did not give consent to publish this. I have been identified by people who read it." And the publisher responded. Here, read this from their response.
"I have looked at the passage that you have referred to. As a person was not named or identifiable, there was no legal obligation to contact them or to ask for consent. To reassure you, I should add that we follow stringent processes for our books. We have also been told by Jessica that where she interviewed women for the books, she obtained their consent." I mean, this person saying she did. Also, it's pretty different. If you're doing this, like, I got Chinese food with this assault victim, and you have a tweet where you're like, "Look at this person I got Chinese food with," that's definitely different. In other words, there's like a version of the publisher's explanation that I would sort of buy, because I think if you anonymize people, it's different if there's really no way to identify them. In this case, there was very much a way to identify them.
There was a photo. And they said, as a person was not named or identifiable, Rosie Flatman found out about this because Rose Latham recognized her.
Not from the social media post, just from the text?
No, she recognized her from the book.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Okay.
So this saga, again, this started in early 2022. This was really just getting started. Rosie Flatman doesn't say much about this anymore, but Sally Ann did not shut up about it. She continued to post and contact basically anyone she could to try to get some resolution. Later that year, she received a letter from Jess's lawyer demanding that she delete all her tweets about Jess and her company. God. The lawyers also demanded that she not publish anything else, that she publicly apologize and, quote, compensate our client for the damage to reputation, distress, and financial loss caused, and pay our client's legal cost.
Okay, so I'm guessing she did not be like, okay, I'll pay up and I'll shut up.
No, but over the next couple of years, this fight would escalate, particularly in 2024, when Jess published a post on Substack called, "My name is Jess and I'm a victim of stalking. It's time to talk about it." So Jesse, read the top here.
Oh, God. In August 2023, a woman appeared in court and was placed under a stalking protection order, which was applied for by police due to her fixated and obsessive behavior towards me and my wife, Jamie, spelled weirdly.
Yes. She describes Sally Ann as a longtime fan who attended her events, wrote her letters, and gave her gifts, even trying to get Jess's home address, before turning on her and falsely claiming that her life story appeared in Sexy But Psycho. Now, Sally Ann didn't claim it was in Sexy But Psycho. She claimed it was in Why Women Are Blamed for Everything. But Jess also says in that post that Sally Ann's harassment escalated and that she contacted Jamie's family and her PhD professors.
Oh, so, okay, did Sally Ann do that?
Some of it, yes. Some of this is misleading or false. So let's take the most serious stuff first. It is true that Sally Ann made a complaint to Jamie's university after she says Jamie sent her a DM that she found upsetting.
Did you see the DM?
Yeah. So Sally Ann has kept immaculate records since this started. She sent me a file with every post, every DM, every lawyer's letter, every complaint she sent.
Love to see it.
It's a very large file. But in that DM, Jamie is basically defending her wife and asking Sally Ann to have a conversation with Jess. Sally Ann had blocked Jess by then. Jamie says that the people publicly supporting Sally Ann are just doing it because they hate Jess. Jamie had also publicly tweeted at Sally Ann quite a bit. Sally Ann had done the same. It's very tit for tat, very hostile. Like, Sally Ann tweeted that Jamie was being abused by Jess too. Jamie tells Sally Ann to fuck off. Sally Ann did later apologize for that comment, but yes, she did complain to her professors after she got the DM. Nothing happened.
Did Sally Ann contact Jamie's family?
No, it's actually the other way around. Sally Ann got an email from Jamie's aunt. They corresponded a bit. The aunt started sending Sally Ann screenshots from the family group chat, and Sally Ann says, she told me like she felt like she was being roped into something and she disengaged.
Sorry, Jamie's aunt/aunt.
Yes.
Jessica Taylor's wife's aunt.
Yes.
Sent Sally Ann screenshots from their family group chat.
Yes, which I saw.
Why? What were they?
This was a high conflict family.
My God.
I'm not going to repeat more of what I saw, but it was high conflict. No. But point being, Sally Ann did not contact the family. The aunt reached out to her. Now, obviously yes.
Sorry. Jessica Taylor's wife's aunt reaches out to Sally Ann.
Yes.
Jessica subsequently says Sally Ann contacted my family?
Jamie's family.
Jamie's family. Well, same. Okay. That's crazy.
Yes.
It's like a 180-degree lie.
Right. Now, obviously, the most damning thing that Jess wrote in that post is that Sally Ann, quote, appeared in court and was placed under a stalking protection order, which was applied for by police due to her fixated and obsessive behavior towards me and my wife, Jamie.
Did that happen?
True, but misleading. Jess did report Sally Ann to the police multiple times. Sally Ann reported her right back. Those complaints,
as one does.
Yes, those complaints were closed with no charges filed. Jess did get an order of protection from the court, so that's like our version of a restraining order, but it was granted only on a temporary basis. So this is standard operating procedure. It's not a determination of guilt, and a permanent order was not granted. Jess doesn't tend to mention that.
So in other words, they each reported the other, and in the course of this, the police did like a temporary
not the
stay
police,
away from this person
for
now.
Court.
The courts did a temporary stay away from this person for nothing.
Yeah.
Did Jess have her own stay away from her? Did it go the other way?
No, she did not get a protective order against Jess. Yeah.
Okay, what about the supposed gifts and looking for her home address?
Right. So Jess said that Sally Ann sent her gifts and tried to get her home address. According to Sally Ann's version of events, it's true, but she says there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. So for the gifts, she says that she makes a lot of homemade art, like handmade art. And during the pandemic, during lockdown, so this is before they're falling out, she was sending people gifts that she called socially distant hugs. So she had asked Jess for her address to send her a gift. And in that DM from Jamie to Sally Ann, the one that made Sally Ann go report her to the police. She actually told Sally Ann that Jess still had the gift that Sally Ann made in their house. So she clearly didn't see it as menacing at the time.
Oh, so when she sent her, she asked for a dress, sends her a gift.
Yeah.
Jessica Taylor likes the gift.
Yeah.
And then later Jess is like, she asked for my address.
Yes.
I'm so scared.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. That's so fucking, I mean, this is what I mean by like this type of person who's like,
it's slippery.
And then she said that she was going to track me down. And you find out what you meant, and track her down is like, get your address to send her a gift.
Right. Now, Sally Ann, I should say, she filed a complaint against Jess with the British Psychological Society. Their response was basically, we've looked into this. We don't find sufficient evidence to pursue action. So neither of them really got what they wanted. On Sally Ann's side, the police and the British Psychological Society didn't do anything. Jess continues to this day to say she's a stalker, although she stopped naming her publicly. And then on Jess's side, the permanent protection order wasn't granted, no criminal action has ever been taken, and Sally Ann has continued to complain about Jess both publicly and behind the scenes. So anytime Jess is in the news and says that her longtime stalker received a harassment order, Sally Ann will write the publication and try to get it taken down.
Does that work?
Yes, sometimes. She just got a Daily Mirror article taken down.
I feel like these two do not have a healthy relationship.
Yeah, and I get the sense that Sally Ann knows this. Like, when I asked her about this ongoing campaign for her, she said it's really an issue of justice. She doesn't like that Jess, this woman she sees as, you know, she has money, she sees her as having power, she sees her as basically stealing her story and profiting off of it. Sally Ann has none of that. She has no money, she has no assets, she has no lawyer, she's in a wheelchair, she lives with her parents. And so it galls her to see what she interprets as Jess profiting off of stories like hers. But she is relentless, no doubt. And it seems as though this has occupied a really large part of her life for the past now 4 years.
There's there's a type of person who it's like, yes, I think you were wronged here, but I think you're just like sort of digging yourself in further by not letting it go. Do you get the sense that like if Jess just admitted that, yes, I shouldn't have used your story, Sally Ann would stop?
I asked her the same thing, and she said yes, she probably would, but she also said that this will never happen. Jess will never admit that she used her story, and she will never apologize.
That seems to be an accurate psychological assessment. So,
Jesse, this brings us to the end of the first part of the Jessica Taylor saga.
Riveted so far.
The next episode is going to cover her new book and her fight against the website Tattle Life. And episode 3 is going to be about the WhatsApp scandal that could have destroyed her business.
Ooh.
This has never been reported before. Yes, there are dildos involved. We're also going to reveal who her army of alleged gang stalkers really are. And we're going to solve the mystery of who allegedly tried to kill Jessica Taylor. If you want to hear the whole sordid saga, join us, blockedandreported.org.
Damn, Katie, this is crazy so far. I can't wait to hear the rest.
There's so much more.
As always, we are produced with help from Jessica the 80s Baby. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned. I suspect this is going to get significantly crazier.
Bye.
Bye.